Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about inflation. It's a stealth tax. There's a lot of talk about inflation that's taking place in the country right now. You need to know what inflation is, how it affects you, and how to mitigate its effects. So, simply put, inflation is an erosion in your purchasing power. So, when you combine inflation with taxation, remember basically what taxation is, it's a decrease. It's the opposite of a raise. So it's a decrease in your earnings or your dividends from an investment or the capital appreciation from an investment. So taxes are a decrease in those things. And then you turn the page and inflation is there so that all of the dollars that you come away from paying your taxes, now these dollars are yours, these dollars are subject to inflation now, or the loss of value over time. Okay, why does inflation happen? Inflation occurs when there is a lot of demand for a limited supply. And so you notice that either companies will try to raise the prices, or commodity prices will increase because they've got more people demanding these things with their dollars. And so supply lines, these places, they have to purchase, let's take Apple. Apple has to purchase lithium for their batteries. So lithium's going to go up because there needs to be more labor involved in extracting lithium, in refining it, and shipping it, because its demand is so high. So we see prices increase as a result. That is what inflation is. Now, with $4.5 trillion that has been put out on the street in the last just less than a year, you can imagine that there is an increasing demand for certain goods and services. Add to that, we just put 1.9 trillion on the street of the 4.5 trillion just yesterday or over the weekend when Biden signed the latest stimulus bill. We're going into spring and summer. The country is opening back up. So people are going to be spending money. They're going to be demanding more goods and services. And they're going to have the money to make that happen in a lot of cases. Yeah, people are getting $1,400 stimulus checks. But people with kids are getting money for each kid, okay? Minor child. So there's even more money that a family can put out there on the street and into the economy and create more demand. So it's very perplexing when we get the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, and Jerome Powell, who's the Federal Reserve Chairman. And they're both downplaying the risk of inflation. They're out there sounding like, inflation, prices will go up temporarily, but they'll come back down, okay? Again, we have $4.5 trillion on the street, and most of that money, because a lot of people are suffering in terms of having lost their job or their business just imploded through no fault of their own. And so there is a need for some people to receive this money. Other people may not necessarily need it, and you may see them paying off debt, buying a luxury item, because, America is a consumer economy, and our first inclination is not to save money, it's to spend it. So we've got that going on, but Powell and Yellen, what they're saying is really curious, because they're both very intelligent people. I don't care what your politics are, okay? I know that Yellen has been appointed by the Biden administration, but she's a smart woman. And Powell, he's a smart guy, all right? They know that when more money hits the street, and interest rates are very low right now also. So even if you didn't get a stimulus check, getting your hands on some money is relatively easy in terms of interest rates today. So money's coming out of the woodwork. And when that happens, the risk of inflation is actually higher. and they're downplaying it. Now, I personally believe that they're doing that because they don't want to talk the market down, have people say, okay, well, now it's time to put my money into something safer. They don't want to be responsible for a correction in the stock market, is what I think. Which, you know me, I do not trust the government. I do not trust the news media. So you've got to take these lessons and you've got to do your due diligence and you've got to suss out where the facts reside. All right. Now, let's take a look at some facts. They're saying that inflation is not a problem. But did you know that food prices are up in the last year? They were at 1.8% or 0.2% higher January of 2019 into January 2020. But going into 2021, we look at that January and look, food prices have more than doubled. And this is according to the United States. This is information that is coming to us from the CPI indicators. The same is true when we look at February. Food prices have more than doubled 2021 over 2020. So we've got I'd call that inflation. Prices are up, right? Okay, let's look at some other things. Food may just be one. Now, food is right next to you, okay? That's something that you and your family need on a daily basis. So we've got food. Now let's take a look at another staple, lumber. Now we're looking at a chart. Let's make sure this is a 1-year chart. Okay, here's the 1-year chart of lumber prices. Lumber is up. The price of lumber is up. So that's going to mean that going out and adding an addition to your home or purchasing a new home, homes are made of wood, okay? You're going to pay more based on today's lumber price as opposed to the lumber price from a year ago. That price has demonstrably increased. So what is Janet Yellen? What is Powell? What are they talking about? We can go on. We've got crude oil. You've driven past the gas station. You know that, and again, this is the 1-year chart. Crude prices are up year over year. So you're paying more at the pump. You actually see that, okay? You might not necessarily pay attention to the crude oil price, but you certainly pay attention to the gasoline price. Let's keep it going, okay? Now let's take a look at steel. Your washing machines, your cars, all those things that go into that are manufactured from steel. The steel price is up year over year. And let's take a look at one more. Here is the lithium price year over year. Lithium is up. So your electronic devices are going to factor in that cost. All right. Now, let me say something real quick. When you see these price increases, okay, so we got food, lithium, lumber, and steel. These companies are going to pass that on to you in the form of higher prices. All right. Now, the Biden administration is also talking about increasing corporate taxes. Corporations are also going to pass that tax on to you. So there's basically inflation on top of inflation. How do you deal with this? Well, it's very simple. The only way that you can outrun inflation is to get a return on your money that is higher than inflation. So again, we're talking about inflation running at between 2.5 and 3% annually. You've got to get a return north of 4% 4% or higher, in order to have your money maintain its purchasing power long term. And as we look at these discrete prices, as we did with the items we just looked at, some of those in the last year are up well over the 3% mark. Now, I will say that over time, that'll flatten out, okay, if you look at it over time. But I just use that data to show that I think that Yellen and Powell and others are not taking these issues that are right down here at the base of the economy, where people, individuals and families are making these purchases. What are they taking into account when they do their inflation calculation? It's probably some esoteric formula that all of the big wigs and big brains over at the economists or economy majors at Harvard and Yale, they can understand it. But what we understand here at our level of the economy is increases in real world prices. So you have got to concentrate your efforts on getting a return that is higher than 3% per year. You've got to get way up above that in order to maintain your purchasing power. And the asset class with the highest return is your own business. All right. So that's the one with the highest return. You can get returns that are out of this world. Go look at the returns Amazon got last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Okay. As we go from there, we've got real estate and the stock market that, kick off some decent returns as well. But when you get into stocks and when you get into real estate, again, if you're going to beat inflation and taxation, then you've got to make sure you're getting a very good return. Below that, down at the least in terms of its ability to battle inflation, is commodities. Now, some commodities tend to preserve your purchasing power over time. The thing with commodities is most of the time they're not meant for you to, get these incredible returns or make income. All right, that's a different ball game altogether when you talk about gold and silver. I'm not saying they don't have a place in your portfolio, but the function they perform is different. So take a look at your portfolio. Take a look at the money that you're bringing in terms of income. Are you beating inflation? The raise you got last year, if you got one, if you got a raise that was less than 3%, if you got a raise that was less than 3% last year, you lost money.